thank you so much for taking out the time and being part of this conversation. It'll be great if you can start with a brief introduction. I know you're involved with so many different initiatives, so it'll be good for the audience to just get a flavor of what all things you are involved with.
Good morning, Ram. I guess sometimes I also forget what all I have been doing 3 decades now, but I've been largely in the digital transformation space since the time NEGP was created, and have been working with the European Commission, World Bank, UNDP, ADB, Gulf Country Council, many of these multilateral agencies, largely on formulating policies at the national level for digital transformation, and more recently leveraging artificial intelligence, language models, etc., for transforming the way the public services are delivered. Currently, I am working as a senior AI and digital transformation expert with the World Bank, and also a digital economy expert with FAO and cybersecurity specialist with ADB.
I wonder if there is any DFI left out in your universe. You're practically collaborating with almost all of them now.
Yes, I think digital space is such that the fundamentals remain the same. You can apply it onto any sector. Right. So incidentally, in terms of verticals, I have worked with urban, with health, with education, and now for last 5 years, a lot more with agriculture.
Right, right. And as you know, agriculture is my core topic of interest. So would love to understand, across all these different organizations, what kind of projects, what kind of initiatives, what kind of new steps are being taken in the combination of the government machinery and the DFIs, so to say.
So basically, if you look at the DFIs, the way they operate, they don't do things based on their own priorities, because most of the projects are funded and they are driven by what the government wants. But I think in the space of agriculture, if we have to talk about, say, World Bank, there has been at a global level an initiative called Agri-Connect, under which I think lots of different initiatives come. One of the key initiatives which is started very recently is called ONS, which is Open Network Stack. It is basically an attempt to create a stack of open protocols such as backend and make it available to the entire ecosystem to build on top of that. But if I have to talk very specifically about the kind of initiatives we have within the World Bank and many other agencies, is we have multiple kind of things. We have services in the climate smart agriculture, which is a collection of digital tools which help farmers be more climate resilient. Say, for example, World Bank has something called a climate warehouse, which is a carbon trading platform built on the blockchain, and it is provided as a shared public good to the people. Similarly, we have digital extension services, which are basically a combination of, now since you also have language models, combination of AI-based chatbots for providing advisories, etc., to the farmers. Then we have lots of analytics in dashboards. The bank has a global series which is called What's Cooking, which is data for digital agriculture. Okay. And we talk to multiple countries there, look at what new innovations are coming, and see how they can fit into Agri-Connect kind of a larger ecosystem. Then we have knowledge products and knowledge platforms, where I think lots of recently the World Bank published a global report on AI in agriculture, which has lots of use cases. And now with India AI Impact Summit, in partnership with Government of Maharashtra, the World Bank is curating a compendium of AI use cases in agriculture, which will be released during the India AI Impact Summit. So there are lots of things. I think most of the bank projects have digital as a strong component. Similarly, ADB has been financing large traceability platforms. In Indonesia, they have this national land stock kind of a platform. So most of the multilateral agencies are, I think, doing good. Europe has EU Traces, which is a multi-country DPI on traceability. So
wonderful, wonderful. In fact, we keep hearing about multiple organizations having invested in a variety of these initiatives, like you said, blockchain. You talked about, DPI in agriculture or traceability. You talked about, agronomy and farmer advisory. Can you share one or two very specific success stories, especially in markets, comparable to India, not just in India, which should be a big lesson that, look, here is how they implemented? Any examples?
So I think there are many. Say, for example, if we take Vietnam, one of the initiatives, which is basically a IoT-based rice cultivation platform, which provides very precise information to the farmers as to when to irrigate and when not, and which has basically helped save lots of water. So that has been one of the. Similarly, the bank has also supported a traceability network within Vietnam, which is used for exporting the products. In Kenya, there are lots of initiatives which are with the private sector. Say, for example, with one of the startups, there is this Hello Tractor program, where multiple farmers, and we're talking about smallholder farmers here, who can order the farm equipment, including tractor, on a shared basis. If you come to India, I think in India there are multiple initiatives. We had, under Pokhara, we created a digital platform, which was, I think, for the first time in India, I'm talking about 2017, we were able to set up an innovation center within the agriculture department and create the entire platform without having an outside vendor. That is now seen as a success story. Recently, again in partnership with the government in Pokhara 2 project, there's this AI-based chatbot called Mahavistar, which has, I think, even if we compare it with the private sector, the chatbot, since the day it was launched until now, which has been merely 3 months, has got 1.5 million downloads.
Wow. 3 months, 1.5 million downloads. I'm sure loads of startups would be shocked to hear that kind of.
Yes. So governments normally don't advertise the kind of work they do, but we have seen this as amazing. You can talk to it in Marathi as a farmer, and it advises you. And I think this is also possibly the only platform in Asia where the information which it is providing, the information based on which it provides advice, is source grounded. So the government takes full responsibility of this being accurate.
Wow.
So similarly, in Tamil Nadu, we have TNRTP project, where we have been able to create digital commerce services, including creating a umbrella branding under which many FPOs can sell their products, and they have these stores in each of the districts where somebody can go and buy, and these are funded by the government. So I think many, and the latest, as I said, we are now experimenting with a concept of moving from a systems or stacks approach to an ecosystem approach.
Sure.
where I think the services is a blend of a digital public infrastructure as a shared public good, funded, maintained and controlled by the government agencies, and on top of that an application marketplace where any private players can offer their services, but they can use AgriStack, they can use sandboxing environment, they can use GIS engine, they can use language models, they can use curated knowledge, and on top of that, if there are startups who want to build their services, the government will not only provide this infrastructure but also provide funding to the innovative ones.
Sure, sure. I know we've spoken about DPI in agriculture a few times. Of course, there are existing initiatives like, you have the ONDC, you have the AgriStack, and some of the examples you were talking about. But if you were to compare it with some of the initiatives globally, then what roadmap do you see, or what aspirations do you see that this is what we should be building further in our country, so to say?
See, basically there are two parts to the answer. One, you said comparing it with other similar initiatives globally. I think when you compare what we've been able to do in AgriStack, say for example, or ONDC, which basically aspires to challenge Amazons and Flipkarts of the world, I think India is clearly in a leading position. But instead of comparing us with others, we have to now work more on being interoperable with others. Because agriculture as a commodity goes to multiple places. India is also an exporter, we are also an importer, and for this entire thing to become very efficient and also cost effective for our farmers and also make them competitive, we should talk about now more about interoperating with the global platforms rather than comparing ourselves with them, because comparison is not possible.
Sure.
It is very context specific and each country have their own context and the reasons why they built the kind of DPIs they have built.
Sure, sure, interesting. Coming to the different states in India, you mentioned some of the states. You've been involved with Maharashtra, you've been involved with UP. From an overall activity point of view, what are some of the the best examples for other states, let's say a Rajasthan or an MP or others, to pick up and do further, so to say?
In agriculture, even though I think this was one of the verticals which took digitalization very late, compared to urban or finance, it had its own advantages actually, because when agriculture started digitalizing, there were no legacy systems. So we could start with state of the art. Say for example, if you look at Telangana was able to create agriculture data exchange, which now is also becoming part of our national setup. Maharashtra is creating the next version of that data exchange, which is not just the public sector data sets, but also universities, private sector data sets, and integrated with a language model. So that is the next version of ADEX you would see soon. Then you have in Kerala, you have this 𝐾𝐢𝐿, which is basically moving the services to the farmers from a generalized block level services to personalized farm level services. So each farm now is geotagged and the system knows who's the farmer, what crop he is growing, at what stage the crop is through satellite images, and are able to provide both the advisory as well as the services on a proactive basis. So that is another thing. Then in Tamil Nadu, as I told you, there's a very good model of market extension services where because most of these FPOs and farmers have, we've seen in Tamil Nadu, they had very unique products, but no access to market. So they are selling it at a much lower cost. The government, through a brand called 𝐿RISE, has been able to create an umbrella brand, and I think in one of the projects they have hired consultants from the market who have been instrumental in setting up big bazaars and all those things to help the FPOs create their own brands and then market them globally. Similarly, as I said, in UP Agris, this is the first time the digital is mainstreamed into a large project. Earlier, the practice used to be in the agriculture projects, you talk everything agriculture. And once you finalized everything, you sprinkle some IT on it, you know, for monitoring or some market access. This is the first time in that project there is a separate component which is called digital architecture and financial services, closely linked to financial services, because I think when you're talking about innovation, funding new startups without them having to go through, I don't know if I can say that, but decades old procurement systems, you know, which were created to procure goods,
Sure.
not services.
Right.
So these challenge funds, etc., are, you know, some of the instruments which can help startups without them having to compete with TCSs and those kind of agencies.
Very interesting. In fact, on a side note, we'll be meeting a founder today who actually wanted to discuss about setting up a digital mandi and how he's been able to get access to not nearby kind of markets. The buyers were able to buy from farmers, you know, at the farm level, so to say. But that's a separate topic. But since you spoke about, you know, new technologies and kind of, what I'm trying to understand is from an agri-tech point of view, the startup ecosystem point of view. And I've been in the startup ecosystem, so I understand for a lot of people in that ecosystem, it's very difficult to navigate either the government bureaucracy and the machinery and the systems and the processes. And same with, you know, the World Banks and the ADBs. They understand that there are a lot of activities happening, but they also find it a bit of a black box, or they don't know who to speak to, or they don't understand how to engage. So from your perspective, especially since you're involved with so many different you know, entities, what would be your advice? What are the opportunities? Where can they come and, you know, pitch and be part of these initiatives?
See, two things. One, as I had been telling you earlier, even before we started recording this, that the government funding has not to be seen as a subsidy or a welfare by the startups. Most of the time, you know, people come to us, startups, saying that, you know, my system is so good that the farmers are, you know, benefiting, they're getting 40% increase in their income, etc., which actually would mean to me as a professional that if it is that good, a government support may not be required, right? Because then you could be sustainable on your own. The government support is required where a technology has a huge potential, but initial cost of acquisition is high for a smallholder farmer. So the government could probably subsidize that cost for him for 1 year, 2 years, etc. After which, when you know, the economies of scale are achieved, this becomes cheaper so that the farmer can afford it. So those are the kind of areas where the government would want to fund, and that is true for the projects which are funded by multilaterals.
Right.
You know, it's not the responsibility of the government to make you an entrepreneur by giving you money, by giving you business, and also helping you navigate whatever problems. Because in that case, the government would have done that themselves.
Right.
Right. The government money is for the areas where we want that the smallholder farmers should have access to cutting edge technologies. But currently, something very innovative which could be useful for them, say for example this Mahavistar AI chatbot.
Right.
creating that kind of a chatbot with so much of curated information, enhancing reasoning capacities of the AI algorithms, providing it in a local language, which means curating language dictionaries for different dialects. So the service has a potential, but for creating that kind of a service, a large amount of seed capital is required.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing which the governments should be supporting and are supporting. But I think for now, riding on top of this chatbot, if there are some startups who come and say, okay, now this is available, I'll do these innovative services on top, they will be funded. But coming to government with the run of the mill, and I mean, I'm sorry to say, this is a thing where all the startups are there. Most of the time, the startups who come to us for support, they don't do a market research. They assume that whatever they have conceived is innovative and nobody else is doing it.
Okay.
When we ask them to do the research, they find that maybe that service is provided by 100 more people.
Right.
So I think building capacity of startups in connecting with market research, in connecting with investors, I think that will be the biggest thing, because investors have been roaming around the globe. Right. They know the best practices. They can not only support but also provide very ground realities to the startup. So government would be happy to act as a bridge between the startups and the investors, and provide some kind of financial support if required, but it should not be seen as a means for funding your business, because then I think there are many others who would lose that opportunity.
Sure. Interestingly, I was just talking to a couple of founders in the last 2-3 days, and some similar points came up that, and both of them said that, the funding is not the most important thing. They have applied to whatever program has been launched in Maharashtra, and one of them said that, look, for us, just a validation from a government body that this is a good startup and please at least explore them, that itself has huge value to us. The commercial value of whatever the project is less relevant, but that validation is a big advantage which we are looking forward to. The other startup was all the more interesting. They said that, look, we have collected over the last 4-5 years so much of data, and we know there is a limited amount of value we can extract out of it by keeping the data to ourselves. So we have been brainstorming as to how we can engage with someone else, either on the government side or some other entity which has its own share of data, and see how we can kind of collaborate. So I think some of the more progressive startups have started thinking on the lines of what you're talking about. But of course, if you look at the overall startup universe, there are a lot of people who start out with passion, and they've not kind of got their head around what are the real challenges, what is the competition, and sometimes they do fall short when you probe them a little further. But I think
just to respond to these two startups you talked about, we've started an experiment in Maharashtra, which could be, I think, exactly the answer to what they were asking. One, they have asked that you have a product, but obviously reaching out to the farmers, connecting with the FPOs, etc., becomes a very difficult thing, and it requires money also to go to market. And so Maharashtra has started this innovation funding program, and if you see the way that program is structured, is that when the government when the government gives you the money, they also would ask you to select an area, which could be a district, a cluster, couple of districts, couple of blocks, depending upon where you want to test your product. In that area, in addition to this entire tech stack, which is data, sandboxing, cloud infra, the government would also provide you the agriculture department officers who would take you to the FPOs, who will take you to the farmers, who will tell them, please try their services, you don't have to pay anything, we are funding it. After that, if you succeed, and the government thinks that they have discovered an excellent service, there is also provision for maybe funding you up to 20 crore rupees.
Wow.
For taking it to the entire state, which the government will announce soon. Similarly, the second part you said, for having your data sets, the Maha-Agri Data Exchange is exactly designed to have, but there are rules.
Of course.
If you bring your data to that exchange, you'll have to standardize it to be machine readable the way it has to be. You have to agree that the way government data access is provided to you, your data also becomes a part of that pool, so that if somebody else also wants to use now this entire data including yours, he's allowed to use it. You can't just say that I'll give my data, I'll use government's data, but my data cannot be used by somebody else.
Yeah, obviously, it's an exchange.
So those are the rules which have been very well framed, and if you're agreeing to comply with those standards, agreeing for a shared IP, agreeing a consent-based sharing of your data also along with the government data, you can be part of the data exchange. And we've been able to, fortunately, create those coded contracts within the exchange where the entire data sharing is purely rule-based, consent-driven, and can be revoked by the owner of the data as and when he wants.
Got it. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think those were the questions I had for you today. Really appreciate you taking out the time and addressing all these questions in so much detail. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.